A very good evening and welcome to Primetime News live on Newsfirst with me, Mahina Bongso. We start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
President to sign order to hang drug peddlers. Will the joint opposition split over Gotabaya Rajapaksa's presidential candidacy? Fuel prices to change every month. Sri Lankan Airlines to receive billions more from state banks. Central and Northwestern Provincial Councils split over tub over water. President's Council Hemantha Warnakala Surya, no more.
President Maithripala Sirisena announced today that he will sign required orders to execute capital punishment for convicted drug traffickers who carry out large-scale drug smuggling operations even while in detention.
The opening ceremony of the Matata Erehiwa Parcel in Javayak program under the National Drugs Prevention Program, which is in implementation under the guidance of the President, was held at the Gatambe grounds in Kandy today. Under the program, a circular was issued to school principals on the prevention of drugs in schools. It is mandatory that a drugs prevention committee is appointed at every school before the end of the year.
I made the proposal to the Cabinet of Ministers yesterday. It may spark a debate, me being a Buddhist, but it is the President who has to sign the order to hand down the death penalty to those who have been sentenced to death. I do not think I will be committing a crime when I create a better tomorrow for the children and the entire society. Last evening, I told the Ministry of Justice that I will sign the order to execute the death penalty on those who are serving death sentences for drug-related offences and still continue to be involved in large-scale drug trafficking. As a policy, I am against capital punishment. About 2 to 3 days ago, drugs worth 1.52 billion rupees was seized and he was bringing them down to the country while in prison. So a decision has to be taken on such people. The President said 19 large-scale drug racketeers have been identified and that these 19 should be hanged. He also suggested to use the military to curtail this. The President asked for the list and he would sign the order to hang them. I say this to the entire political authority. It is only a handful of the population in Sri Lanka who uses these substances. They also have the votes. The father would never want his son to use these substances either. So even his vote would go to the person who is trying to put an end to this. If you do the math, it is clear that it is those who take such good measures for the nation who gain popularity. It is a raw myth that this could be resolved by killing people. The country's situation is such that it is difficult for a person to run a small business without a little political assistance. Even the drug trade operates with the political protection. These racketeers survive under the shade of the ministers and politicians of governments. But once this begins to become a problem, or when disputes begin to rise within the group, they use their political power and point the gun at the very children they raised. This is going towards a political suppression.
2 suspects were arrested by a special team of the Criminal Investigations Department today with 9.9 kilograms of heroin found in a timber mill in Wakarai, Batiklo today. The street value of the stock of heroin has been estimated at over 140 million rupees. Meanwhile, a woman who attempted to send 3.15 grams of heroin stuffed in a tennis ball into the Valikata prison was sentenced to life in prison by the Colombo High Court today. The suspect is a 33-year-old resident of Sivali Lane in Boralla.
It is reported that 2 state banks will extend financial assistance of 13.5 billion rupees to bail out the cash-strapped Sri Lankan Airlines. According to the Daily Mirror, Public Enterprise Development Minister Lakshman Kiriyala had submitted the cabinet memorandum in this regard.
According to the newspaper, it is learnt that the 2 state banks will issue the letters of comfort in this regard soon. It goes on to note, however, Finance Minister Mangala Samaravira, in his observation on the cabinet paper, has stressed the need to restructure the national carrier or to find a new investor for the development of it. At present, Sri Lankan Airlines owes the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation over 13 billion rupees. At a meeting held recently, both sides had agreed the airline would pay a sum of 800 million rupees this week and the remainder will be paid off using a loan from a private bank.
खनिज तेल नीतिगत संस्थाවට යම්කිසි ණය මුදලක් ගෙවන්න එහෙම තියෙනවා ඒවා පියවීම සඳහා යම්කිසි ණය මුදලක් දෙන්න එහෙම තීරණයක්
නෑ There is nothing new to be done on that matter. Yesterday the Treasury Secretary said he would give assurance for all matters and the amount required by them would be released as a loan to make payments for the fuel.
මේවා තෙල් ආනයන කිරීම සඳහා ලබා දෙනවා.
ඇමතුමා පෞද්ගලික බැංකුව යටතේද නැත්නම් රාජ්‍ය බැංකුව යටතේද
රාජ්‍ය බැංකුව යටතේ.
For 3 years, this government had failed to introduce a successful business plan for the airline. There is no permanent CEO at the airline. The CEO has said he will step down and now he is like a normal employee. This institution cannot be operated like a retail store. If more loans are obtained under this present context, the situation will go from bad to worse.
This is an environment where the organization has been continuously making losses. So it requires some urgent actions. Fuel is the biggest cost in the airline. Second part is the aircraft lease cost. Third part is the labor. In an operating airline, these are called direct operating costs. They should recover their direct operating cost. Otherwise, you are losing your entirely. And where there are excess staff, we need to arrest that. Some bitter medicine need to be taken. So it's good to have 5,000 people working rather than all entire 7,000 people going home. So we have to make that sacrifices.
The price formula itself contains so many duplicated cost components. For example, now throughput charge, there are 3 or 4 throughput charges, and on top of that, CPC and CPST also charge separate profit margins. So with all these additions, I think the price of jet fuel is jacked up by additional 20%. So out of 20%, if one can save 5%, and with the 400 million liters of jet fuel consumption in Sri Lankan Airlines, easily if saving just one US cents per US gallon can save more than 600 million rupees per annum. I think probably we can save about 5 rupees.
The Rajapaksa relatives moved the airline to bankruptcy. The Ranil Wickremasinghas of the government of good governance brought more debt to it. Now they are trying to get more loans from state banks. However, the government signed an agreement with the Asian Development Bank, and it was noted these state banks do not have the capital and shares have to be sold. On one hand, they are trying to give loans, and on the other hand, they are trying to secure a greater loan for the Central Expressway. Are they trying to politicize the two state banks and sell them off?
A very good evening. The point of discussion this evening is the white elephant in the country, Sri Lankan Airlines, the debt-ridden national airline. Now, discussions were underway regarding the 5 billion rupees sought by CPC over payments due for fuel. Now, the airline had agreed to pay 800 million rupees and the remainder as a loan from a private bank. Now, today it is reported that 2 state banks are going to come forward to bail out the national airline. Joining me this evening is Mr. Asoka Das, a veteran journalist and who has vast experience in the field. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So before we move on to the debt-ridden airline, let's talk about the state banks. If you could elaborate to us, what is the main function of state banks?
Now, there are 3 state banks, Bank of Ceylon, People's Bank and National Savings Bank. Now, these banks were started to encourage the saving habits of Sri Lankans and then support the entrepreneurship of Sri Lankans. I don't think anywhere in their objectives has the point that the state banks should lend money for other state-owned enterprises.
So from what you say, it appears that the state banks are basically established if a farmer wants to buy a hand tractor to give him a loan.
I mean, that is the way that we should move forward. If I want to raise a loan and if you want to raise a loan, say for an example a housing loan, then they will ask collaterals. They will ask what is my business plan if I am to start a small SME. Are they checking the same way the objectives and the business plan of Sri Lankan Airlines before lending money to those Sri Lankan Airlines? I mean, all these banks are pushed to lend money to this Sri Lankan Airlines. Is it with other motives? Is it with the proper intentions? That is the thing that we have to identify and understand at this juncture.
Mr. Das, how good will it be for the economy if the state banks are used for this?
Now, to me, if Sri Lankan Airlines has a business plan and then our own bank supporting Sri Lankan Airlines, well and good. But we all have discussed and we have understood enough that they don't have a business plan at the moment. CPC ultimately gave an ultimatum and said that if you don't provide us the money, if you don't return the money, they will stop supplying fuel to Sri Lankan Airlines. And now that debt is covered by state banks. Now, this is a very dangerous situation.
Mr. Dias, on that same line of thought, now we have the Hambantota report, which was given to the Chinese for 99 years. Now, if Sri Lankan Airlines is bailed out by the two state banks, will it be considered as the two state banks are now owning the airline?
Yes, now technically speaking, that is the way. But we all know that what happens with the money that state banks spend. Now, state banks are used to spend for even road development. Now, is it the way forward? Is it the correct decision? This is the function of the central bank to evaluate this. I mean, if the state banks has an issue, that will reflect very badly, very negatively on our national economy.
So when a state bank has an issue, they should run back to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the governing body of all the banks, the regulatory body of all the banks. So one would question, if these two state banks are to be used by the government to bail out a certain state-owned enterprise, a loss-making enterprise, isn't the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the regulatory authority of all banks and financial institutions in Sri Lanka, not doing their job properly here?
Now, central bank failing in their job is not a new thing. From 2015 we have seen this, and there is enough and more proof that central bank is not looking after even themselves.
So who is responsible for this, and what will happen to the national airline? In the days to come, we will see what will happen. And in the meantime, I was at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry this morning where startling revelations were made regarding the lavish expenses of former chairman of Sri Lankan Airlines, Nishanta Wickramasinghe. Let's have a look. It was revealed today former chairman of Sri Lankan Airlines, Nishanta Wickramasinghe, had billed the airline 7,726,000 rupees from 2008 to 2015 as sales-related PAX cost. That's around 3 tons of excess baggage cost that has been waived off. This is equal to 36 average human beings. It was revealed that the chairman's staff included the secretary to the chairman and the executive secretary, excluding the drivers. For the financial year 2013 to 2014, the basic salary for the chairman's staff was documented as 3,812,000 rupees. If you take it as only 2 employees come under the chairman's staff, each of them took home a salary of 158,000 rupees a month. In addition, former Sri Lankan Airlines chairman Nishanta Wickramasinghe had 2 drivers who were working almost 24 hours of the day. This was revealed when their overtime allowances, which exceeded almost 100,000 rupees a month, was placed as evidence before the commission. According to documentation, the cost of duty travel overseas by Nishanta Wickramasinghe in 2014 to 2015 had cost the airline 9,028,000 rupees. If we consider an economy class trip to Singapore cost 30,000 rupees, Nishanta Wickramasinghe had made 300 trips to Singapore that year.
There appears to be 2 opinions within the joint opposition on fielding Gotabaya Rajapaksa as the presidential candidate. Is this the beginning of a split in the joint opposition?
A party leaders meeting of the joint opposition was held at the official residence of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa last night. MP Udaya Gammanpilla did not attend this meeting, citing that he is overseas. At the meeting, it was agreed to initiate future political activities under an alliance called Joint Podujana Peramuna.
Let me tell you something. We want a democratic leader, and that democratic leader is President Mahinda Rajapaksa. I told you there is no world beyond that, so don't talk about the others. Not that I don't like him. They can be stakeholders of the government as well, but the head of state is none other than Mahinda Rajapaksa. You do not understand what I am telling you. He can be president if he can come into a democratic system. You think about it. I do not have to tell you. I will accept only one person, Mahinda Rajapaksa. Though he is a Rajapaksa, there is a difference in Mahinda. He is a democratic person with the people.
I believe Chamal Rajapaksa would be the best candidate from our side. He will receive all the votes from our side. He would also receive several votes from a central and democratic point of view.
ඉදිරි ජනාධිපතිවරණට සුදුසු අපේක්ෂකයයි කියලා. එතුමා ආවොත් එහෙම මොකද ඔබ කියන්නේ?
I spoke about the candidate which can be selected, a candidate who I consider can win. Chamal is a candidate with a better character. I do not see any other candidate who could surpass him regardless of what propaganda they carry out. Various views may be expressed. My friends can say different things. We respect the opinion of any one of our members. We will not condemn them. At the end of the day, there are 2 points we all raise. One is, our leader is Mahinda Rajapaksa. There is no argument there. 2, we accept what Mahinda Rajapaksa says. These 2 points are there, so relax.
Sri Lanka's legal fraternity was saddened by the news of the demise of President's Counsel Hemantha Waranakulasuriya. Waranakulasuriya, who was 74 years old at the time of his demise, passed away while receiving treatment at a private hospital in Colombo. The late President's Counsel's final rites will be conducted on Saturday.
President's Counsel Hemantha Waranakulasuriya's remains were brought to his residence in Norris Canal Road in Colombo this afternoon. Hemantha Waranakulasuriya had an intense and deep understanding of the law and its application. His fearless and outspoken views have by now become legendary, and Mr. Waranakulasuriya had the expertise and the passion to take issues of a national interest to the very boundaries of democratic debate without fear and certainly without prejudice. Hemantha's outspoken nature, where he never hesitated to call a spade, didn't appear to augur well in his role as Sri Lanka's representative as ambassador to Italy and the Vatican. However, he served his country extremely well, and his passion for all matters legal was matched only by his passion for patriotism and his firm belief in one country, one nation, with an equitable playing field for all. Mr. Waranakulasuriya never shied away from giving his expert legal opinion on many contentious national issues, and his contribution to criminal law will be appreciated by generations of students to come as Sri Lanka prepares to face the myriad challenges ahead.
He was one of the greatest lawyers I met in the magistrate's court because he studied these facts. He studied the law. He knew what he was talking about. He didn't just jabber for nothing.
He was the Deputy President of our Bar Association in 2004-2005 period, and before that he was the chairman. He was the secretary of the Bar Association in 1989 to 1991. The legal aid chairman, chairman of the Legal Aid Foundation in 2004-2005, and thereafter he initiated Niti Niti seminar program that was very helpful to the junior members, where he went all around the country and to enhance the knowledge of our junior members. So during this Vijaydas Lianarachi's assassination trial, he was doing a lot of work to the Bar Association.
The President's Counsel finally appeared on the Newsline program on the 12th of March of this year.
People say, now I'm as a lawyer, I am for media freedom, I have fought for the removal of charges against the editors for publication of defamatory libel items. The government has become, the body government has become so powerless. The President is absolutely powerless under the 19th Amendment. He has become virtual eunuch. Because of the 19th Amendment, these people have tinkered with the Constitution, yes. And then have made the President powerless and the entire government powerless. Country in such economic turmoil, and especially after the bond scam, we don't have any investments coming in. No one is going to come here and invest here. People have lost the confidence, and there is no leadership. People talk of Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew had immense power. And here what did our pundits do? They said remove the powers of the President and make him an impotent eunuch who cannot do anything other than just give orders.
You're watching News First. Up next is Action TV.
During the 24-hour period that ended at 8 a.m. on the 19th of May, a rainfall of 375 millimeters was recorded from Anamadura. However, even before 2 months had passed, the paddy lands in the area have become barren, and this was exposed on Action TV on Saturday. This clearly proves the development of irrigation resources in the country has been limited to mere words. These paddy lands are nourished by the waters from the Mahakarambe River and the Mahakon River in Tabova. It is only after the 375mm rainfall that the Department of Agrarian Services Development and Irrigation decided to approve the cultivation on these paddy lands after a period of 4 years. No matter the heavy rainfall, the Mahakarambe River and Mahakon River in Tabova cannot contain the water for the cultivations due to poor maintenance. Yesterday, this was certified by the Assistant Commissioner for Agrarian Services for the Putlam district. A drought affected the area for almost 2 years, and if that time was made use to remove the silt from the bottom of the river, the present situation where the paddy lands have been destroyed would never have arisen. Around 4 to 5 people have motors. Some may borrow a motor, but they will not be able to meet the cost of diesel. Some have abandoned their paddy lands as well. The tank can hold water to a height of 13 feet, but now it can only hold water to a height of 8 feet. The present quantity of water cannot be released for the cultivations. A meeting took place at the Tabova Agrarian Services Centre, and the Assistant Commissioner had noted a request will be made from the central government to release water from the Inginimite Reservoir to the Mahakarambe River and the Mahakon River. On Saturday, Action TV stressed the importance of at least supplying water from the Inginimite Reservoir and protecting these paddy lands. However, if the matter is still in discussion, it is paving the way for a complete destruction of these paddy lands. It is rainwater that is collected in the Inginimite Reservoir, and rather than engaging in a power struggle, what needs to be done is to devise a plan to supply water from the reservoir to the paddy lands in dire need of water. Shouldn't this be the top priority? Minister of Irrigation and Water Resources and Disaster Management, this is over to you.
A decision was taken to increase the prices of petrol and diesel with effect from midnight yesterday. The government says the pricing mechanism is in effect in a manner which will decide the prices of fuel once a month.
This was told to be done in a short span of time because it is likely the prices could reduce within that month, so the people reap the benefit of the low prices. In another 2 months, the same situation may not prevail, which is why we decided to implement it once a month. So according to the pricing mechanism, in the future prices will fluctuate. It might even change from day to day.
ඔය මිල සූත්‍රයේ කනිජ තෙල් වෘත්ති සමිති පවා දැක්කේ නැහැ කියනවා. ඒ මුල සූත්‍රය සාමාන්‍ය ජනතාවට හරි අදාළ පාර්ශවයන්ට හරි පෙන්වන්නේ නැද? ඒක මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශයේ සතු දෙයක්ද? සූත්‍රය කියන්නේ
The pricing mechanism is that the prices here are changed according to the general basis point of those prices. But this isn't the increase which has been presented. It is only by half.
මොන ක්‍රමවේදය යටතේද මිල සූත්‍රය ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ?
සිංගප්පූරු ෆුවල් මේව එකේ ප්‍රයිස් එක තමයි ගන්න.
මිල සූත්‍රය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නේ මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශය.
This pricing mechanism is being implemented in an irregular manner. The people have to know how the fuel prices increase because they are the ones who pay taxes. We called on the Finance Ministry to immediately present this pricing mechanism. If there is a revision of diesel prices, the private bus owners have the right to amend their fares. President of the Lanka Private Bus Owners Association, Gamanu Vijayratna, said the association's stance on the fuel price increase will be announced after studying the pricing mechanism. We will have to increase the prices of food items sold at hotels. All trade unions and civil organizations will convene on Saturday to take this decision. If this industry is to continue, three-wheeler owners have to increase the fare for the first kilometer at least to 80 rupees. The professionals will have to remove their meters and run at their own charges. They have to be prepared to reduce the prices as well when they drop. They will be bound to an agreement. If the prices change in the next 2 weeks, the fares will change as well. When a litre of 92 octane petrol is unloaded from the harbour, it is priced at 78 rupees and 43 cents. The government imposes a tax of 60 rupees and 63 cents on this. This adds to 139 rupees and 6 cents. But since yesterday, it is being sold at 145 rupees. The CPC makes an additional profit of close to 6 rupees. When a litre of diesel is unloaded from the port, it is priced at 83 rupees and 70 cents. The government imposes a tax of 32 rupees and 14 cents. This adds up to 115 rupees and 84 cents. But the government sells it at 118 rupees. The CPC makes a profit of 2 rupees and 16 cents. The fuel prices were increased last night for no reason. The price increase was made for the CPC to cover its losses. Week by week, the Cabinet of Ministers is getting broader and promotions are given. There is a severe crisis within the two groups in government itself. They are retaining these ministries to maintain their grasp of power. The more this number increases, they will have to be maintained by the taxpayers' money. The general public should look into whether these traffic fines and fuel prices have been increased to maintain these ministries.
The South Asian Speakers Summit on Achieving the Sustainable Development Goals was held at the Parliamentary Complex this morning.
Held under the theme Promoting Regional Parliamentary Cooperation for Sustainable, Equitable, Green Economic Growth, the opening ceremony of the summit was held under the auspices of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and Speaker Karu Jayasuriya. The summit was attended by a delegation including Speakers of Parliament from Afghanistan, Bhutan, India and the Maldives, as well as representatives of the parliaments of Pakistan and Nepal.
Comparative regional indicators highlight key development challenges faced by our sub-region. South Asia is an early achiever of the Millennium Development Goals relating to poverty. However, more than 219 million people are trapped in extreme poverty. That's based on the US dollar 125-day poverty line, representing almost 14% of the population of the sub-region.
The success of achieving the SDG to a large extent depends on South Asia. This global compact for transformation to balance development and sustainability requires a huge effort by the executive as well as the non-governmental sector. It also requires the political will to carry it through. The role that the parliaments play is ensuring that the political will is there to implement the SDGs.
The summit was organized by the Inter-Parliamentary Union together with the Parliament of Sri Lanka.
A study by the Department of Census and Statistics has found that 65% of state sector employees lacked A-levels and 17.2% the GCE ordinary level qualification.
The Census of Public and Semi-Government Sector Employment conducted in November 2016 revealed that out of the 1.1 million employees in the public sector, excluding the security forces, only 17.6% were graduates. Experts say politically motivated appointments have led to this situation.
The quality of the public sector employees has deteriorated over these years, mainly because the recruitment of public servants on a political basis in order to provide employment to unemployed youth in the country. But of course now any of these employees cannot be fired from the public service, and what the government should do is to put them on a continuous learning program to enable them to deliver better and more efficient public service to members of the public via the adoption of the information and communication technology. For that purpose, there is a necessity that all these employees should be put on a continuous retraining program.
Out of the 290,378 graduates, 54% held degrees in arts, while graduates with degrees in management and commerce stood at 14.3% and 10.4% in science respectively.
A large number of graduates in arts stream have been also employed in the public sector, mainly because the government has become the employer of last resort to providing employment to graduates, which of course demonstrates the deficiency in our university system, where a graduate who passes out from the university system is unable to get employment on its own, and as a result, at the end, the state has to provide employment to them also. But this is a very inefficient situation, because what happens is that the graduates who are unable to get employment on their own are now recruited to the public sector, And once they are recruited to the public sector will have to train them again in public service to provide these services.
Well, England's Harry Kane and his team will take on Croatia later tonight in the second semi-final at the Luzhniki Stadium in Moscow to seal a spot at the finals on Sunday against France in the Football World Cup 2018. Well, on that note, we conclude tonight's edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mahina Bongzo. Good night.